Hey guys, are you looking to join the United States Army? Then this might be the channel for you. I'm Sergeant Kelly, your mildly honest Army recruiter, and I'm here to break down the enlistment process for you. Given that it's not the 1940s where you can sign on the dotted line today and be in boots tomorrow, the process has gotten a lot more complex. So hopefully through these upcoming videos throughout the weeks, I can provide some tips, tricks, and potential solutions to your enlistment process. So join me today here on Recruiting Declassified. Alright guys, let's talk about the 3 things you need to know before meeting with an Army recruiter. First and foremost, how did they contact you or did you contact them? Like in the movie Old School, we're not out there like chasing people down, throwing them in vans.
What's going on? If you tell anyone about this, I'll fucking kill you. I'm kidding. We'll come back by tonight. Okay, sweetheart?
Sometimes, even though it'd probably make my life a lot easier, to be honest, also a little bit more fun. But us as recruiters, you'll probably see us out at high schools, college, career fairs, out there beating the streets, walking around, throwing up flyers, or just randomly talking to people. If you've gotten ahead of the power curve and maybe you've taken the action to request more info, either online through like goarmy.com or you just use Google and call into the local recruiting station, you need to get a hold of the manager. The manager in a recruiting office is called a station commander. If you live in a large city like Houston, Jacksonville, Florida, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Seattle, Los Angeles, like big ticket cities who usually have like football, baseball teams that are of value, unlike the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. You're probably not going to have all the options of somebody who grew up in a class of, I don't know, like 26 seniors, and then somebody in town has somehow double stacked a double wide on top of each other, and now they call it a mansion. Yeah, you're probably not going to have that many options compared to a lot of people in the larger cities. Nonetheless, if you called in, the reason why you need to speak to a station commander is because you need to find a recruiter who resembles you, like your aspirations, you know, your passions, your goals, and station commander should know his recruiters better than anybody else in the office. The second you call into a recruiting station, though, probably a recruiter's going to pick up the phone because, honest to God, we want to find the next person to join the United States Army. They're going to be super excited, and then you're going to be like, hey, look, I just want to speak to the station commander first. I just have some general questions before I actually speak to a station commander. You know, and then if they don't want to hook you up, just hang up and call back. Best advice I can give you. But the reason why, though, is that if you're aiming to go infantry, intelligence, communications, field artillery, I don't know. We got over like 150 jobs. You guys have seen most of the commercials that are out there. I personally think we need to go back to be all you can be. But, you know, what do I know? It's 2022. But yeah, you need to find somebody, though, as far as a recruiter that lines up with your aspirations. The reason why it's important is that if you're wanting to go infantry, that's what I was way back in the day, and you tell the station commander, like, hey, I want to talk to somebody who's infantry, probably because that person who's an infantryman, who's also a recruiter right now, can answer a lot more of your questions rather than you just randomly walk into a recruiting office. The first recruiter who sees you is going to be like, hey, man, come here, take a seat.
Have a seat.
No, I'm just gonna go.
Take a seat right over there.
How does he do that?
Could be a truck driver. Dude's not going to be able to provide the exact same answers and experiences that could either engender your commitment, so to speak, or could potentially maybe turn you away. Another weird fact, just to throw this out there, the recruiter you talk to, if you're just going to walk in and not heed my advice, usually the recruiter you talk to, you have a super high chance of actually doing the job that recruiter is. So if that recruiter is a truck driver, commo, field artillery, the list goes on, whatever. They're going to tell their life story. We also call it their Army story. And you're just going to be sitting there sometimes just in a trance, like, oh my God, like I can totally do this. Yeah, no, just hold your horses and stick to your game plan sometimes because we all sometimes get lost on our way into college, to college, or through college.
What the fuck are you even doing here?
Sir, I got lost on the way to college, sir!
And I'm not trying to turn you away from any of that, but just be open. Yeah, decent advice. I don't know. Yeah, but The biggest point I'm trying to make is just find a recruiter that is just like you, like attitude-wise, motivation-wise, sometimes career aspirations. If they got some college like you or don't, it'll just help out your process a lot more. Point number 2, we're going to talk about 2 things. Son of a bitch, probably shouldn't be picking my nose during these videos. All right, guys, point number 2. Before meeting with your recruiter, you're going to get put through what we call the pre-qualification process. You're going to hear things like Apple MDT, and it's a set of, well, it's an acronym, but
Today, Junior?
it's all these words that correlate with the questions you're going to be asked in order for us as recruiters to determine if you're qualified to join the Army. You're also going to experience this with other branches, but we call ours Apple MDT. It covers age, prior service, your physical, law violations, education, medical, dependence, and then testing. I'm going to touch on these super quick because, honest to God, an entire video can get done of this, which technically it will when it comes down to the waiver portion for you people who don't understand how law works.
Is it for what? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America.
All right, guys. So I had to stop myself because the pre-qualification portion, also known as Apple MDT, went on about 8 minutes too long, and it was way too much info. There's only 4 subjects that you guys really need to know about that could potentially either disqualify you or hinder or slow down your process in regards to enlisting to the United States Army. Those 4 things is age, education, medical, and moral, also known as law violations. Age-wise, 17 to 39 you can enlist. If you're one of those high-speed go-getters at a young age, you're on 16, 2 weeks prior to your 17th birthday, you and your parents can actually start filling out the forms where you can enlist on your 17th birthday. There's a few things that might get in the way, but it's 100% possible. The other thing, if you are 40 or above, you can still potentially enlist if you're in a specialty field, such as you're a lawyer or you're a doctor. There are some other extenuating circumstances where if you're somewhere around 40 to 42 and you're in great physical shape, sometimes there's a waiver. It's going to favor the waiver if you go into the reserves more so than active duty, but it's better for the higher ups to tell you no than just us recruiters on the field. The other thing that we got to cover, so education. If you're a high school junior, senior, you can enlist. If you're a junior, you can go reserves. If you are a senior, you can go active duty. But what we need, though, is a letter from your guidance counselor or registrar validating that you're on track to graduate. Us as recruiters will usually set up times with the guidance counselor to check with them once a month, that being the guidance counselors, like I said, to make sure that you are on track to graduate. If at any point in time your grades start slaying off or to the point to where we can't make it happen anymore, we will kick you out of what's called a DEP program. That's a delayed entry program. That's where you've already enlisted, you got a job and a ship date, and you lose everything.
You know something? No soup for you. Come back 1 year.
You don't get a negative discharge or anything, but everything that you enlisted for is now gone. You can re-enlist at a future date, but usually by that time you have to have your high school diploma. If you're an adult already, though, with your high school diploma or college degree, you can enlist at a higher pay grade depending on the amount of college credits you have. If you just have a high school diploma, you're like everybody else, but nonetheless, congrats on actually getting those credentials. On the other hand, if you're an adult and you do not have a GED, a high school diploma, or some other form of equivalency, quite frankly, you're SOL. You don't know what that means? It means you're not enlisting. You have to get some form of education that's a high school diploma or a GED or some other form that is equivalent to those in order for you to enlist. We have no programs in the United States Army that will help you get there. You have to do that all on your own. And one thing that affects is your ability to interview with us. Me as a recruiter, if you tell me you're not qualified, I don't want to spend too much time on you. And I know that may sound negative, and I feel bad to an extent for saying it, but I'm only going to give you about a 20 to 30 minute interview because roughly only 1 out of about 10 people that I have interviewed over the past few years actually follow through with getting their GED. So I'll interview to potentially spark that motivation for you to get out there and get it. But if you think about it, with you having to work a full-time job and then study and then go to class to take tests, and then if you have kids or a family, it's a lot to take on. So it is possible, but don't take it bad if us as military recruiters are like, We'll interview with you, but it's only going to be for a short time. You're not going to get the full-blown interview. The other things we got to cover is medical. We have to know everything from today back to the time you were born. Anything that's been put in your body or removed from your body. So like pins, plates, screws, bolts. If you ever had your adenoids, tonsils, wisdom teeth removed, gallbladder. If you ever had a hernia, knee surgery, ACL, MCL. Do you have any fixed joints, webbed feet? The list goes on. We have to know about it. The most predominant things that people think are disqualifying is like ADHD. It's not a disqualifying factor, but it is a waiver. But you have to be off the medications anywhere from 6 months to a year. It's June of 2022. The regulations are bound to change. But the more upfront open you are to us, the easier we can make the waiver process and your enlistment be into the U.S. Army. Or we can cut ties, because time is something we can never get back. And I don't want to waste any time on you, so to speak, on someone who's not qualified. But if you're upfront and honest, I can help you get through the waiver standards for medical if it's possible. Lastly is moral, and a lot of people think they can get away with this. We run fingerprints, also known as live scan, at the recruiting offices. We will ping your full name, your social security number, your date of birth, along with your fingerprints through the FBI. And this will happen 2 times, once at our office and once at MEPS. The other thing is that we have Google, and a lot of courts will now post everybody's law violations if you have their full info. Like I just said, full name, date of birth, social security number. We can get court cases, reports, everything. So we need to know everything in regards to law violations, from traffic to felonies, from today back to the time you were conceived, to include when you were juvenile. Regardless if a judge, prosecuting attorney, whoever so be the case, your probation officer told you that, no, it's off your record and no one will ever see it again. We will. And some of those law violations are disqualifying. Some require waivers. On top of that, some of those things could strike a chord with your recruiter and they won't work with you. And I get it depending on what it is. But like I've been harping on, and I keep saying this over and over and over again, you need to tell us anything and everything, because we're going to find out.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
But other than that, guys, if you have any more questions about this, medical, education, your age, or law violations that could be disqualifying, ask them in the comments. Or if not, you can always DM me, and I'll provide the link at the end of this video. And I can provide some guidance on what is and isn't waiverable to help you guys out, just in case you're getting something wrong from your recruiter. But anyways, back to the video. So the other thing, and this goes into that, is that you need to be honest when you talk to that station commander, that recruiter, on why you're wanting to join. Are you joining the military because you just want to diversify your resume, so to speak? Do you want college benefits out of it? Are you looking to build your resume, or you just want to get out of your parents' house like I did, to be honest? If you just got out of a divorce, if your 16-year-old, I don't know, emo girlfriend just dumped you, or 18-year-old, whatever so be the case, and you're coming in wanting to just interview with us because you think it's going to scare them to getting back into you, don't be that person. It's a waste of everybody's time, and it's just not worth it, and you look pathetic.
Emotional damage.
The last thing, topic number 3, be prepared. There's too many resources out there for you guys to use. You got YouTube, Google. You probably have mom, dad, grandparents.
Boys, how was school today?
I threw a bunch of Grandpa Chip's war medals off the bridge.
That sounds like a good day.
Friends of friends who have been in the military. Start asking questions before you meet with your Army recruiter. There's too many sources. I don't know how many times I can state this. You need to do the research and write down all the questions that you can potentially think of. It's like when you go in to see a doctor and they ask you what's wrong, and for some reason your mind goes completely blank. Writing them down and coming to the appointment with all your questions written down looks super professional of you, and your recruiter will think a lot more highly of you, and it just makes pretty much the interview process go a lot more smooth. Because those interview processes can go anywhere from, I've seen as short as 30 minutes, upwards to like 2-3 hours. But it's dependent upon you and doing your due diligence and actually doing the research. Lastly is showing up at least 10 to 15 minutes early. actually not really lastly, because there's one other thing we need to touch on. But show up early and on time. And if you're going to be late, just send it like a courtesy text, a call, something. We get a lot of no-shows out here in this business because a lot of people have second thoughts, which we get. So just do everybody a favor and send out the courtesy text. Either I'm going to be late, I don't want to do this at all anymore.
If you decide it isn't, listen, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's not for everyone. Thanks.
The other thing, show up in decent apparel. God forbid, just take a bath, please. That's another big thing. I get it depending on your living scenario. Sometimes you don't have that option. And if you're in here to better yourself, like we get it. But if we ask you to sit like 20 feet back from the desk, there's a reason why. But show up in clean, professional, good-looking clothes if you can. But if you're, on your last day of work at a meat factory,
Come get some!
and you're just sick of cutting up a cow every day, we get it. If you just walk in, you're like, yo, just get me out of this lifestyle. But just do that as a courtesy to us if you can. But those are the three things, guys, that I really hope is going to help you guys out with meeting an Army recruiter. And sky's the limit on this. So give me a like, share, send this out to your friends, family members, whoever else. And yeah, wish you the best on your path to enlistment.